The 2024 NHL draft class seems to have a pretty clear consensus top 5, barring some kind of surprise pick, which is never out of the question when teams like Anaheim and Montreal are picking. This is part 2 of my draft series, so make sure you check out part 1 where I gave my prospect reports on picks 10 through 6, and subscribe so you don't miss the next videos where I'll be looking at picks 30 through 11, which should be coming out in the next few days. So without further ado, here are the top 5 best players in this year's NHL draft. Kicking off our top 5 is the best power forward in the class out of Medicine Hat, Caden Lindstrom. The big center scored 27 goals, 19 assists for 46 points in 32 WHL games this year. It's worth noting that his season was shortened because of a significant back injury, which kept him out for 6 weeks while he recovered from back surgery. Lindstrom has been relatively injury prone through his junior career, which could ultimately shy teams in the top 6 or 7 from drafting him if they do have long-term concerns over his fragility, especially given the physical bulldog playstyle that he plays with. Beyond that though, Lindstrom is a complete player. His speed and edge work are impressive considering his 6'3", 210-pound size, and combined with his highly competitive motor, heavy accurate wrist shot, and of course his physicality, makes him the only true power forward with top-line potential in the 2024 draft class. The only gripe people have with his game though is that he's not the best playmaker, and his pass selection is well below average, which leads to a lot of forced passes that break up play for his team and has led to some pretty brutal giveaways. If Lindstrom can manage to stay healthy, his ceiling could go as high as Brady Tkachuk, but maybe even a little faster, sort of like a Rick Nash. In the case that Chicago takes him with the second pick, he and Bedard would complement each other so well and would be a deadly combination for the next decade or more. To be perfectly honest, Anton Silyaev is a complete wildcard for me because scouts have such differing opinions and evaluations on this player. In the KHL this year, he put up 3 goals, 8 assists in 63 games, which is pretty good from a draft-eligible player in the second best league in the world, which most of you may know tends not to favor big numbers for young players because of lack of ice time. The first thing you notice about this guy is obviously his size. At his last measurement, he clocked in at 6'7" and 215 pounds, by far the biggest prospect in the lottery this year. It's not out of the question that with a few more years of physically maturing, he could end up being 230 plus pounds. Usually this kind of size leads to underwhelming coordination and foot speed, but for this freak of nature that's not the case. He possesses speed that is above average even for smaller players, and his agility with a little bit of work from NHL development programs could make him a truly elite skater. Using all these tools, Anton Silyaev has been able to establish himself as a great defender in the KHL, where he even managed to earn some PK time. His offensive game is not great yet, but not bad by any stretch of the imagination either. His skating and IQ make him a consistent threat on the rush. His puck skills are a little questionable at times, which has led to some concerns over whether or not Silyaev can be a primary puck carrier on NHL teams, and his shot speed leaves much to be desired, especially for his size, much like Owen Power when he was at Michigan. These skills will come with time though as he fills out his frame and gains a little bit more coordination in his hands. There is no easily comparable NHL player to Silyaev because no one skates that well at his size, but think a bigger Hedman with a little bit less of an offensive touch. At the third spot, we have Ivan Demidov. This guy's just an absolute beast. He comes in at 5'11" and 170 pounds, which is a little on the smaller side, but there are lots of wingers with similar builds in the NHL that have been really successful, like Nikita Kucherov. In 30 games in the MHL this year, which is the junior league in Russia, Demidov put up gigantic numbers with 23 goals, 37 assists in just 30 games. These totals are even better than Michkov's in the MHL. His hockey IQ is off the charts and his puck skills are Kucherov-like, not to mention his competitiveness and drive for winning is like none other in the top 5. The Chicago Blackhawks have been rumored to be interested in taking the winger with the second pick, which would make a lot of sense. If he does slip a little in the draft though, it'll be because of his lack of a defensive game and his sometimes disappointing level of engagement in the D-zone, which can leave a sour taste in the mouths of some GMs. There is of course the quote-unquote Russian factor as well, as he has to play at least one more year in Russia before he can come over and join whichever team picks him in the upcoming NHL draft. There's also some concerns over how accurately teams can evaluate him at the MHL level. But at his age, most of the previous top-end Russian prospects were already playing in the big league, which has raised some red flags among scouts. Overall, barring any surprises, Demidov will go in the 2 to 5 range as the team that drafts him hopes he can achieve his potential in their system and become a Kirill Kaprizov 2.0. Artem Levshunov is my number 1 defensive prospect in the 2024 draft class. He has everything NHL teams want right now at the position. He's big at 6'2", 210 pounds. He's a good skater, shoots right, and his passing skills are elite, and he frequently even throws in some physicality. In an unconventional move, Levshunov joined the NCAA this year, where he put up 9 goals and 26 assists for 35 points in 38 games. These are crazy impressive numbers for a freshman who hadn't really had much exposure to the North American play style up until that point. Some scouts have expressed concerns over Levshunov's play in his own end, with his defensive timing and decision-making being a little below average, but this is the case for most young defensemen nowadays. Much has been said about how great his skating is, but it's important to note that his first step does look pretty lumbering at times, so his acceleration needs some work before he can excel with the pros. After watching all his highlight tapes where he does show some flashes of great defensive play, not too concerned about this part of his game, though he may need at least 1 or more years of seasoning before he's ready to defend against the top lines at the NHL level. I think he compares really well to Devon Toews or Owen Power, but with a little bit more offensive upside to his game. And of course, at number 1, we have Macklin Celebrini. This guy's just insane. He plays at an elite level at both ends of the ice and never takes a shift off. He won the Hobey Baker as MVP of the NCAA hockey program as a freshman with a crazy stat line of 32 goals and 32 assists in only 38 games. Keep in mind, he did this as a 17-year-old. While his offensive game is off the charts, with Dauber prospects projecting him to have over 130-point potential at the NHL level, his defensive game is just as impressive. His elite skating and hockey IQ allow him to break up plays in his own end and kickstart the rush. Honestly, I thought about making Sidney Crosby his comparable, but I tried not to fall for the overhyping of prospects we do every year. Regardless, his game is so well-rounded that he could very well end up like a Jack Eichel type player in a few years, or maybe even a little better. I don't know what else to say about this guy that hasn't been said other than he's nasty and the Sharks are going to be thrilled to have him. With that, we round out our top 10. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the rest of my prospect series that will be coming out in the next few days. Thanks for watching, and let me know in the comments who you think's missing. I answer all of them.